Ladies and gentlemen, the world we live in today is not defined by the West alone, nor by the East alone, but by the voices of many. India stands not as a follower of power, but as a partner of progress. We will not be lectured on democracy by those who kept empires alive for centuries, nor will we be told what choices to make in our national interest. The era of one-sided narratives is over. Nations must respect diversity of thought, equality in dialogue, and sovereignty in decision-making. India speaks not just for itself, but for the global South, those whose voices have too long been ignored. The world must now listen, not dictate. Balance is not weakness, it is strength. Independence is not isolation, it is leadership. This is the India of today. The idea of a multipolar world is not just a political statement. It is a reality unfolding before our eyes. For decades, global affairs were dictated by a handful of powers who assumed the right to define international norms, decide which conflicts mattered, and control the flow of resources. But that monopoly is breaking. Today, nations across Asia, Africa, Latin America, and beyond are rising with their own perspectives, their own strengths, and their own aspirations. Multipolarity means acknowledging that no single nation or group of nations has the authority to dominate the narratives. It means recognizing that the future must be shaped collectively, through dialogue and respect, not through imposition. India asserts that diversity of power leads to stability, while concentration of power breeds inequality and conflict. A multipolar world is not about replacing one dominant voice with another. It is about ensuring that every voice, big or small, has a seat at the global table. India's foreign policy has always been guided by principle, not pressure. Not pressure. In a world where alliances often come with conditions and choices are dictated by the interests of powerful blocs, India has chosen a different path. Our decisions are rooted in what serves the long-term interest of our people, our security, and our development. When others have tried to frame the global conversation as a binary, East versus West, with us or against us, India has consistently demonstrated that sovereignty means freedom of choice. We will engage with all but submit to none. This independence is not a posture of defiance, but a reflection of responsibility. For too long, the global order has expected countries like India to align unquestioningly with the dominant power of the day. That era is over. India's independent stance is not about rejecting cooperation, but about rejecting coercion. It is about ensuring that our partnerships are built on mutual respect, not dependency, and that our diplomacy serves the Indian interests first, while also contributing to global stability. One of the defining aspects of India's voice in global affairs today is its firm rejection of double standards. Too often, nations that built their wealth on centuries of colonial exploitation, that suppressed the freedoms of others, and that drew borders with blood now speak as if they are the sole guardians of democracy and morality. They deliver lectures to the world on human rights, but remain silent when violations occur within their spheres of influence. They speak of sovereignty, yet interfere in the choices of others. They call for peace, yet fuel conflicts when it suits their interests. India does not shy away from pointing out this hypocrisy. True credibility in international relations comes not from words, but from actions that match those words. For nations that claim the high ground, consistency must be the test. The era of selective outrage and one-sided narratives cannot continue unchallenged. India insists that the principles of democracy, freedom, and fairness are universal values, not tools to be invoked selectively, depending on convenience. For far too long, the nations of the global South, the developing world, have been treated as passive recipients of policies shaped elsewhere. Their voices were heard only when it suited the agendas of the powerful, their concerns dismissed as secondary, their struggles reduced to statistics. India challenges this imbalance by declaring that the future of the world cannot be charted without the active participation of those who represent the majority of humanity. The global South is not a silent spectator. It is a force that demands recognition. Issues like food security, equitable access to energy, fair trade, climate justice, and technological inclusion are not abstract debates in conference halls. They are matters of survival for billions. India's leadership seeks to amplify these voices to ensure that the lived realities of developing nations shape global priorities. When India speaks of the global South, it speaks not in charity, but in solidarity, not as a patron, but as a partner. This leadership is about giving a platform to those ignored, about breaking the monopoly of narratives controlled by the few, and about reminding the world that justice and fairness are hollow without inclusivity. Respect for sovereignty is not a slogan. It is the foundation of peaceful coexistence among nations. Every country, regardless of size, wealth, or military power, has the right to make decisions that serve its people and safeguard its future. Safeguard its future. Yet time and again, we see powerful states attempting to impose their choices on others, whether through political pressure, economic sanctions, or even military intervention. Such actions violate not only the sovereignty of nations, but also the very principles of international law and equality. India believes that true diplomacy begins with respect. Respect for borders, respect for cultures, and respect for independent decision-making. Sovereignty means that no nation should be punished for refusing to conform to another's strategic interests. It means that diversity in governance, priorities, and paths of development must be acknowledged, not condemned. When sovereignty is disregarded, instability follows. When it is upheld, cooperation thrives. For India, defending sovereignty is not about isolationism. It is about ensuring that every nation has the dignity of choice and the space to pursue its destiny without coercion or intimidation. India today is not a passive participant in global affairs. It is an active shaper of the international order. With its rich civilizational heritage and its modern achievements in technology, space, economy, and diplomacy, India bridges the past with the future. The nation's role is not defined by alignment with one bloc or opposition to another, but by its ability to act as a balancing force in a world that is increasingly fragmented. India demonstrates that strength lies not only in military power or economic might, but in the ability to build consensus, foster cooperation, and lead with moral clarity. Its modern role is about creating pathways where dialogue replaces division, where balance is seen as wisdom, not weakness, and where inclusivity becomes the hallmark of progress. India's rise does not come at the expense of others. It comes as an opportunity for others to rise alongside it. By standing firm on principles while remaining open to partnerships, India embodies the possibility of leadership that is confident without being domineering, cooperative without being submissive, and forward-looking without forgetting its responsibilities to the world. The message is clear. The world can no longer be shaped by the arrogance of a few, but must be guided by the collective strength of many. India does not seek dominance, it seeks fairness. It does not preach, it practices. It does not follow, it leads with conviction. The time has come for nations to recognize that respect, equality, and cooperation are not options, they are necessities. In this new era, India stands ready to build bridges to amplify the unheard, and to remind the world that true power lies not in dictating terms, but in shaping a future where every nation, every culture, and every people has their rightful place at the table of humanity.